Not really, you know. I mean, you know, the scheduling thing to me is just probably the most frustrating thing there is, because, you know, we would love to be able to do, I mean, we just can't drop 50 grand on somebody to come in here and play us. And so, you know, you can call Miami and say, hey, you want to play? Oh, we'd love to play, come on down. You know, well, do you want to go home and home? No, we really don't have to do that, and that's true. And therefore, you know, sometimes when you see somebody's schedule and you go, man, why would, you know, we brought a club in here last year, and I can't remember who it was, but they were from the East Coast, and we got 4 home games out of the thing, but it's the only games we could get at home. And so it's not as easy in the Northwest to get people to come up here and play. If it wasn't for the conference becoming a whole like we did in 1999, you know, this thing would have never blown up like it did. You know, we would have had a hard time ever getting to Omaha because you couldn't RPI out. You know, but now you got Stanford coming to Corvallis and Arizona State and Arizona and USC, you know, it really helps with that. But when you're talking about trying to find games, and the problem is you go play teams that are good that don't RPI out because of the fact they're in a conference that doesn't have an RPI on the West Coast. And the Big West and the West Coast Conference are 2 very good examples. Anybody in those conferences can beat anybody in our conference, and you got to go play them. And yet their RPIs generally aren't very high because they're not in the Pac-12, or they're not in the ACC, or they're not in the SEC, or the Big 12. So tough scheduling. I'd rather play. You know, this year I like the fact that we're in a couple tournaments, but going to Santa Barbara to open up for 4, you know, that's a tough task, and we'll get down there and we'll play.
So it's constantly a challenge for you and your staff to be creative on the tournaments that you enter.
It's you know, you got to have money to bring people in. You got to have people that actually want to come to Corvallis and play. And there's a lot of teams that feel like, hey, why would we want to go in there? We can stay at home and play. Bring somebody down here, Chicago, Illinois, and play them 4 games at home. Why would we want to come up to Corvallis? So I mean, it's difficult. When you get them to come up, you got to drop some big coin on them, and you know, we've never really been in the position to do that as much as we'd like to, even though you know, our administration has been great to us in trying to help facilitate that. But it's a tough task. You know, look at Arizona State. I think they played one year. They played 26 straight home games or something. They were like 25 and. Might have been the year we beat them in the World Series. I think that they were 23-0 or something, or, you know, it's crazy. Weather's a factor, and, you know, but now you can play, you know. We got turf fields, we got lights, we got everything you need, you know. It's just tough to get people to come up and play, and it's understandable. So we try to find a place we can go and try to find the best opponent we can play. I think that you're better off playing as good a team as you can play for the RPI sake. And when you get an open weekend, like we had this change in conference, Cal dropped baseball, we put a schedule out. Cal put baseball back in and put another schedule out. Then all of a sudden Utah's in and put another schedule out. And all of a sudden we're moving games and trying to fix it. So I get, you know, our assistants do all the schedule, and they do a really nice job. Man, they're on the phone all the time trying to figure it out.
Will the infusion of this TV money from the Pac-12 change it in that, make it easier for you?
I sure hope so. I mean, I know that there's going to be some money there, and I also know there's some things we have to do up front to get, you know, to get where we want to be before we can start distributing a lot of it. But I certainly hope that that'll be part of the equation.
How important is it that you're kind of co-hosting with Oregon?
You know, Nike can do anything they want. You know, I mean, it's really nice to be able to do that. And Nike's been tremendous to us. I just can't tell you what they've meant to our baseball program. And they are facilitating this tournament, and that, you know, that gets us 4 home games, and that's really quality there. You know, you got UConn coming in, and they lost to South Carolina in the Super Regionals last year, I believe it was. You got Illinois, who dumped Fullerton at Fullerton last year, Oklahoma. So just that's really that's really an impressive tournament, and I got to tell you that it's nice that that Nike has does the things they do for so many people in college athletics. Don't know where we'd be without them.
Coach, you briefly touched on this before we started, but I mean, we've all watched you throw BP for so many years, and you love doing that, and you had the accident, and you said you're throwing left-handed, and you said that you are. talk about how tough it was to start throwing left-handed, and what kind of velocity you have now when you throw.
It's not tough on me at all. It's a poor guy trying to hit, man. I mean, you know, when I can't throw strikes and it's about 15 miles an hour and I'm trying to make the guy make me feel good, he's swinging stuff over his head and in the dirt. But I'm getting better, you know. I'm working at it, and it'll all work out. I got plenty of guys this year to help me out, so I haven't had to be pressed too much. But Joe's been kind of my guinea pig over Christmas break. I wore him out on the. He was going to become a switch hitter, so he'd get the bruises off the right side and flip it around. I'm doing good.
You talk about some of these other Pac-12 teams. Where do you feel like you guys might stack up in that?
Well, you know, they came out the other day with, I think Stanford, I mean, they got everybody back other than their catcher, Zach Jones, and so, I mean, they were loaded last year, and they were number 2 in the country. Arizona's 5, Arizona State and UCLA are like 14 and 15. I mean, it is always what it is, and I'll just tell you that there's no doubt in my mind that the Pac-12 is as good a conference as anybody in the country year in and year out. And I say that with respect. I think the SEC is fabulous. I think the Big 12 is you know, a power conference as well as the ACC. But you know, you just don't find teams that you feel like you can go in and just, you know, beat. I mean, it's just like I said, you look at every year. 5 of our teams are always in the top 20 and sometimes more, but I think we got 2 teams in the top 5 and 4 teams in the top 15. So pretty impressive conference, and it'll be a challenge again. Stanford to me is different than the rest of us talent-wise because of how many kids they have coming back, and you know, I really don't know a whole lot about all the other clubs. I have trouble keeping track of the 35 guys running around Corvallis. So, but I'm going to tell you that the Pac-12 will be impressive.
How important was it to Cal save baseball?
I'm glad they did. You know, I just think it's bad for baseball. I think it's bad for our conference. And then, you know, it was pretty impressive that they went out and made it to the College World Series last year, and the baseball gods were looking out for them because they got lined up with Dallas Baptist to go to the World Series. So, but I give Dave a lot of credit. You know, I mean, he held that thing together, and I just think it's bad for your conference if one of your, you know, longtime members drops a sport, a major sport. You know, if you drop bowling or something, you probably wouldn't raise a lot of questions unless you're on the tour, but for baseball, I thought it was bad. So I think it's good. It's good for Dave, good for the guys at Cal, and I think good for our conference.